Danny here, Queen Glitter Chaos, more smooth DD Speed Shop. So, Dan bought, as you've seen, this 57 right here. $1,500, saved a puppy. And we were kind of talking about, like, that's a great price if you know what you're doing.
It's a lot of labor.
So, why would you not recommend this status?
Well, I think it's a bear of a project, which is fine. Now, it did come with a lot of parts, I mean, miscellaneous junk and all that. We have a lot of Tri-5 related items. And I think it's a really nice car, and it's very savable. And there was a lot of people in the comments who were saying, it's not that bad. And I mean, it's yes and no, I guess.
It's relative.
It's relative. It's, I mean, if you've done cars before, I didn't think twice about it. But if this is like your first one or early on, or you don't have any Tri-5 parts, and you don't know what, if you don't know what you don't know, that's when this becomes dangerous. I know there's stuff we don't have, like the Nomad is a perfect example. I didn't know what I didn't know, and I feel like I paid dearly for some of those things. You're like, oh, how much can some of this trim be? And then you're like, holy crap, how is that possible? So this one was a bit of a gamble. I mean, at $1,500, you can't be hurt that bad. And for us, we're in a unique situation where it's not like, I'm actually really enjoying this one, because it's not like, oh, it has to go on Power Tour, be super reliable, or it has to go, 1,700 miles or whatever. It's just like, we're out for a ride and it breaks down, we'll just Uber home and get the tow truck, So it's pretty easy. So it's not perfect, who cares? If that's your goal, I'd say give her. I also think, I mean, and not to toot my own horn, but I put a lot of hours in, so I get a lot of progress done in a rather short amount of time. And I think that's where people may get a little confused. Like every 3 days there's a new video and it looks more and more like a car. I don't think it's reality for a lot of people, and you don't realize how much work it really is. Like, I don't know, I probably have a couple hundred hours in this car already in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, something like that. Like, it's been crazy.
When people ask us, like, how do you get so much work done? He literally works all day. He comes home, has a snack, maybe a nap, we won't lie. But then he comes out here and he works. He always comes in for dinner. That's very important. We always have a meal together. And then he comes back out here and, like, works until midnight or 1 in the morning. So it's like, for you guys, you probably only see, 3 hours of, the, like, 50 hours of 3 days of work.
Well, there's, 6 or 8 hours Monday to Friday, and then weekends are all of it. Like, 10, 12 hours. So
we wake up and get coffee and then come in here.
Yeah, and you can put 50, 60 hours a week if that's all you do, is work your day job and then do this. So, that adds up in a hurry, and then all the getting parts and running around and all that. So it's starting to look like a car now, 3 weeks in at, a bunch of hours and being done at a bunch of times. If you've never done it before and you're kind of leery about it and all that, that's when it's kind of time consuming. Or at the very least, you get a complete car and you take it apart, you kind of know where things go. I've never done a hardtop before, so we're winging it, but so far it's like going okay, I guess. I don't know. I think for not a lot more money, you probably could have got a lot more complete car. I mean, this car was 100%, it was a parts car. It was stripped apart, all the parts off of it, but they just kept them. And then, meant for another car, I guess, or who knows, or a race car, whatever they were doing with it. But to put it back on the road, this car, the best thing that could have happened to this car was DD Speed Shop, as crazy as it is to say. This thing never would have been a car again in its life, unless it found some idiot like us.
Yeah, well, parts would have been taken off, and then anything that people didn't want immediately would have gone and rotted in a field somewhere, and I think people forget about that aspect of it.
Well, as time goes on, cars are being different. Like, even now, a parts car 15 years ago that I would have been like, oh, that's a parts car, is 100% a builder now. And what's a parts car now is starting to turn into builders, which is kind of a funny situation. I mean, also clickbait, so you gotta kind of buy this shit, but nobody wants to see us buy a done car. But I think for anybody at home, if you can do it yourself, great. If you had to pay a guy, like, I don't know, 80 or 100 bucks an hour in shop rate to do work, oh my god. Like, I can only imagine this car be like an $80,000 car just to have it, like, be worth 25 grand or something like that.
That's crazy.
Well, I mean, you gotta think, like, here anyways, like, shop rate's more than $100 at dealers and all that, so if you use 100 bucks an hour, so if someone worked on this car for 8 hours, like today, I'm gonna be out here for 8 or 10 hours.
Yeah.
If you were paying someone 100 bucks an hour And you have to display all the body panels on top of that, it'd be $800 or $1,000.
And that's assuming they're working that full 8 hours. No breaks, no whatever, right?
It's just like, people are funny because they'll, like a floor pan, like, oh, you want to put a floor pan in for me? And they're like, I'll give you $500. And I'm like, I don't think people understand that, like, so the floor pan went in yesterday or the day before or whatever. So the day before I spent like the whole day cutting the floors out. That was like 5-6 hours. And then last night we worked till whenever it was, putting the floors in another 5 or 6 hours. Then today I'm going to spend the whole day getting the rest of the floors in. So there's probably going to be like 25 hours putting the floor pan in on top of the crust of the floor. And I mean, so I don't know. Like, I think that's why floor pans cost, $3,000 or $4,000 or $5,000. And this thing didn't have a motor or transmission or any of that stuff to take out of it. And I mean, all of that. So people, I don't think they have a concept, because we'll do this in one 45-minute video, the floor pan going in. Well, that's not too bad. It's not hard, but it is very labor intense.
It is a schmozzle in its own right.
Yeah. And I mean, welding gas, welding wire, grinding discs, like all that other stuff that, you kind of have to rely on the guy. You have to pay him. So I don't know what a floor pan costs to put in, but I think to me, like, even if I was only charging like $50 an hour, I gotta think my time would be worth $2,000. And I think that'd be like a steal of a deal. I'm not doing it, by the way.
This isn't an advertisement for DD Speed Jumps floor pans.
It's not fun, but it is very satisfying when it's on your own car, but doing it for someone else, like, no.
So, when this thing is done, I mean, we have one Winter 57 already. Will this also be a Winter 57 to make people upset that you're driving these cars in the winter?
I'm gonna put a snowplow on something this year. I don't know what we're gonna do with this thing. I don't even know if I'm gonna finish it, to be honest with you. It might just be a slap it together and let her go. Like, do we need another 57 Chevrolet? It's cool, it's a hard top, but your car's a keeper, my black car's a keeper, my gray car's a keeper, so that's 3.
I forgot about the 55. Are you ever gonna give that thing some love?
The Nomad, the black Nomad's keeper.
Yeah.
So those are 4 that ain't going nowhere. I got ideas on that one. Ideas don't match the budget yet, or my visa limit doesn't match the ideas. And then we have that Ratty 56. Like, what are you gonna do with that? I don't feel comfortable selling the 2-door conversions ever.
Yeah.
So they're bound to be owned by us forever or turn into parts cars, unfortunately, just because it's not worth getting a small amount of money to then possibly deal with the headache down the road.
Well, I was just going to say, people actually ask why you don't sell your conversions, because other people do sell conversions, like in the States and stuff.
Yeah, I don't think I ever would. Or you have to make a deal if the next person ever wants to sell, I have to get it back or something. And I mean, that convertible we built is like so chopped up, custom, whatever. Like, it's a parts car that we're driving around. I mean, let's be honest, that's what that thing is. So, I mean, how much love is this thing going to get? I mean, unless it lives in the States somewhere. One of you may be able to store this for us.
So some of the comments, these were the comments. These aren't me. They're the comments. We're kind of saying, how is this a budget build if you have all of this stuff already? So how does that equate to being a budget build if you've already accumulated things?
Well, I don't think I've used anything. I said I have some Tri-5 stuff, internet, but up until this point, everything has come with the car. I think all the patch panels, the wheels and tires are mine, but that's just rollers. If you don't have a set of rollers, you can't call yourself a car guy. The rear end, I mean, okay, it was out of Danny's car, but again, if you're a car guy and you don't have a couple of, like, at what level are you going to be a car guy? This goes back to the beginning of the video where this probably isn't the car for you then. Like, go spend the money and buy something that runs and drives. Or if you're the kind of guy that has a borderline junkyard in your backyard basement between the garages, this is the car. So, I think the only stuff we're really going to scab from, like, the parts bin is going to be, like, trim bits, headlights, and not, honestly, this thing came with so much stuff. I was getting stuff delivered like the day before I was leaving for Cruising the Coast, so I just jammed it in the shed. So it might have a lot of parts, but basically, like, here up, I don't have anything because it's all different. It's hardtop. Doors and all that, different. The quarters and all that, whatever. Fenders, we don't even have any fenders. I thought I did, but we don't. I do have a radiator But again, that was, I think I put a radiator in the Nomad, and then I put a big one in. So, I mean, I don't know, I guess that might be a little bit of cheating. I got a $300 radiator. All the front suspension, I ordered off eBay, because it was literally cheaper to buy new stuff than rebuild the existing stuff. Upgrade the disc brakes, well, I mean, I didn't have any of that, I bought it. So, I mean, I don't know. I guess maybe I misspoke in that video where I was saying I have a bunch of stuff. Because, I mean, we have a cluster, we have a lot of things like that on the inside. But I don't think we're saving like 10 grand. I mean, it's probably $1,000 worth of kind of swap meet stuff that we maybe have.
Well, I was actually just going to bring up the swap meet stuff. Like, so for most people that are going to buy like a classic car, like a Tri-5 or like, you know, a special Dodge or something, majority of those people, whenever they buy parts car, they take off all the good parts and keep it. Or every time you go to a swap meet, you look for things you're always going to need. Like if you see a cluster, you buy a cluster, right? Like if you see like, hi. Did you think I wasn't back on you, I guess?
No, I was not paying attention.
But right, if you see a cluster at a swap meet, you buy the cluster. If you see trim at the swap meet, you buy the trim. Like you've learned from doing all these different cars. So I think that's really what a budget build means. It's about using all the things you've accumulated over the years, because I know that you guys are hoarders, all of you. And you all have all of these parts in your basements because you all message us and go, I have this for this, some random car. So I know the parts are out there.
Well, and I mean, yeah, so the other thing is, I mean, obviously we're doing a budget build on a Tri-5 because it's the easiest one for us to do a budget build on. If we were to buy a Cuda, let's say, in this shape, it would absolutely not be a budget build because I don't have one Cuda part. Like, it's just, that's the way it is. Those Camaros, which everyone hassles me on getting on, which I will at some point in 2025. But there are so many parts with that I feel confident we have enough stuff to put it together. So you gotta kind of, you know, pick your battle. If it's gonna be your first one, and you know, if you don't want to pull the catalog out and swipe the Visa, then make sure it has a bunch of parts with it, or it's very complete. So I don't know. I guess that's just the way I kind of look at it. It's a budget build for us, maybe, or whatever you want to call it, but. Really, I guess when I was saying budget, I just wasn't going to put fancy junk on it like we have in the past. I guess I have a fuel tank. I got a few things for this thing that we can kind of reuse, but I don't know. Be crafty. Don't throw stuff out. Fill your basement up with junk.
Be hoarders.
We are.
I know.
We are hoarders.
I'm aware. I should show you guys the front hallway.
But that's budget build stuff that we bought.
Yes.
That's off-brand Chinese brakes, suspension.
Yeah, it's no name brand stuff or anything.
Wiring harness. So, I don't know, I think people just pick on the wrong things. And I guess as the build goes on, maybe they'll figure out that this is very doable, I think. If you have some skill and you can wait on stuff or you can find some stuff, like I said, I think we'll have $5 grand in this thing. It'll be right on the cusp, and it might not be perfect, but I think it'll run and drive for $5 grand. So, I think anybody can do it. And $5 grand don't buy you much these days. Especially like to have $5 grand invested in a two-door hardtop 57 Chevrolet that runs and drives, that essentially is, we're going to call it rust-free. I mean, not perfectly bodywork, but there isn't any big gaping holes in it with a new floor pan. I think you're doing pretty good.
Sweet. Well, thank you for your time, sir. And we'll see you next time.
Enjoy that ad revenue.
I will.